Hi everybody. So I'm Stefan Baldy, the Product Development Director for Alira. So I'm going to be telling you about the SaaS application that Cocho's been developing that's designed to solve the big challenges, especially when it comes to identity transformation. Alira, what it is. So we know that we've been, so Cocho have been doing identity transformation for 20 years, and they've really started to understand. Well, they know the art and the science of identity. It's not just knowing a product, like knowing a bit of Okta, knowing Google, knowing Intra. It's really not enough when it comes to identity transformation. It's knowing identity as a concept, it's agnostic to technologies, and because Cocho do this so brilliantly, we understand where the gaps and the opportunities are. So Alira is a product of that decades of experience, and we're understanding the gaps, and also speaking to a lot of customers. We're understanding where their common challenges are and what we can do to plug those gaps. And it's ultimately about reducing your operational costs, improving that user experience. So the challenge that we've seen is the IT support system, like the IT ticketing queue. So it's the manual side. So you always want to automate first, and bring in AI. Of course, everyone has an AI strategy, and automation is your first step. But there's always going to be the human side of identity. So just-in-time access, provisioning, approvals. Like no AI could ever replace those, and automation can replace those processes. You're always going to need that human element, but the human element is typically has the most risk, the most cost bleed out, and the most opportunities for efficiency. And I mean, we've all been there. I've been there myself. Like, there's nothing more frustrating when you've got pressures, you've got a deadline, and you need a critical bit of software or a component, and there's an IT bottleneck. And IT are incredibly busy function, but it doesn't help when you've got to do a deadline in a couple of days, and it's taking hours and even like a day to get the software you need. So what you do is you escalate to your manager going, I really need this access now, or you start going off and sign up for something yourself, like doing shadow IT, going behind the processes and then going down the shadow route, escalating it. It's just adding more burden to the IT bottleneck, and it's frustrating people. So automate where you can, but the human element doesn't need to be neglected. So it's really driving that self-service and adoption concept. And there are big opportunities and big challenges here, right? So slow onboarding does frustrate users. You want to make sure that the most time there's a lot of energy with new starters. You want to keep that energy up, right? That gumption really, and it really resonates with people that are young, they're excited, they've joined the business, and you don't want to get your spirit killed in the early day because it's taking you days to onboard. So making sure that you have the tools for the job as quickly as possible, but also the empowerment to find the else. Maybe you need a nuanced bit of software, a privilege. You want to make sure that's easily accessible. Like IT should always be step 2, not step 1. And with the bad experience, like technical complexity, I genuinely believe shouldn't need to be imposed on the end user. And technical complexity can exist for a very good reason. Maybe there's you're doing a lot of acquisitions, you're procuring your businesses, that they've got their own identity platforms. So, and if you've got multi-cloud environments, they've all got their own privileged management systems. You don't need to make that complexity. That's the burden or the privilege, I guess, of the IT and security departments. But the end user doesn't need to be subjected to it. So you want to make sure it's quick, easy, and efficient. And shadow IT, it's unbelievable. Like when you read into it, there's so much opportunity in the cost of shadow IT, because even the concept of you've got 3 different products doing the same thing. Sometimes it's preference, and then if you don't have strong regulations and controls in your business, you allow these 3 duplicate techs, but also that hampers your volume licensing discount opportunities. And when you've got IT shadow IT is what IT don't know, then they've got they're going to get a ticket of, I need help with this product, and they have no idea, they've had no training on it. So that again frustrates the bottleneck, and they're unvetted apps. So you have no idea what security risks to bring into your business. So coming up with these mechanisms to prevent shadow IT and to also combat it, like you don't want to just So stopping shadow IT is a great thing, but you also want to get shadow IT out of the shadows. Like, how do you increase that engagement with your business users to come to IT, going, look, you've been using the system for a year now. What is the compelling event that will get people to come to IT and talk about the systems that they've got? And this is where Alira can really help here. And the money was unbelievable. Like, we're understanding, and when I go into this, well, I was using business examples, but this is the same data and metrics that the AI industry are using. This is like the cost of inefficiency, and this is just access tickets. So these are privileged, like especially in Intra, you got your PIM groups, the privilege management portal, PIM roles, you've got access packages. These are very complex, and even with level of automation, there's always that manual side. And if it's not easy or intuitive, it's a human psychology thing. They'll either avoid doing it or they will just log a ticket because they're just not comfortable or don't understand it. So, and I calculated, I play it fair. So we'll focus on the 1,000 employees. So I was benchmarking this on a moderate level of automation. So these are where you have your core apps integrated, birthrights, so automatic provisioning, all that. And then you had about 50% of your apps that weren't integrated. And that was averaging about 400 tickets just for access. That's not including all the other types of tickets that IT support. And I come up with the 800 quid per ticket, and you're like, whoa, that sounds a bit high. Like, I was quite, was like, really? So, but when you break it down, when you look at the, so with 1,000 employees, I benchmarked it on about 4 IT staff, which is, I don't think that's unreasonable, right? So, and with that 4, you factored in the salaries, their licenses, the pensions, the tax, the overheads, and when and the cost of the ITSM tool. So when you break that down, it can be around about 40 to 80 quid an hour to run an IT to a ticket. So if the ticket takes an hour to do, that is about 40 to 80 quid, which is and I encourage you guys on this call to definitely look into this yourself. And then you got the cost of the productivity. So yeah, and I calculated at 45 minutes per access ticket. So I played fair. And then you've got to think about the delays. So if there's a new marketing person that needs Photoshop is a critical component. And then when you factor in the average salaries in the marketing department, and I playing fair, I did an 80% productivity reduction. So they're still having meetings, they're still doing other things. I'm not completely dead in the water, but it is a critical component that they need. So, but that is like 10 times the cost. So like IT support was just 45 minutes, but if they're waiting for days, and then there's opportunity costs, so that's like the delays on producing assets, producing value for the business. So when you round that out over the 400 tickets, this is where you get this money. And like, I don't think I'm being unreasonable. I'm not even, and this is just the entry cost. These are just like not including like the shadow IT because they don't want to wait for Photoshop so they sign up for a free app. They're not, and then you've got the licensing, the security risk, right? They've got the shadow IT app. Potentially, it's some startup. There's like someone basement that created something. You have no idea what security risk they're bringing to your business. And then there's the manual side, like just to do that ticket, and yeah, so there's a lot of secondary costs to this. But this is, and just with access, this is why the AI industry is what in the trillions now, because it's real money. Like the cost of inefficiency is quite profound when you really do break it down. So, and this is just the self-service side, right? This is the human element of identity. And let's be honest, Intra has this capabilities, like Okta does, Savient does, but I do believe that they're missing a fundamental step. Like they've designed it for IT and security personas, but they're not the entire business. You do have low-tech users. You have Jane Doe in accounts. You've got Joe Blogs in sales. You know, they're not technically minded. And these tools are not designed for that low-tech user, and that's where the adoption gets hampered. So automate first. I'll always say that. I'll never not say it, but there's always going to be the human side, the manual side, and where these tools are. And Intra is powerful. I've seen magical things happen with the product, and it's so agile. You can do whatever you want, right? There's never a challenge that we've met at Coach-O that I've met in my entire professional history that couldn't be solved. It's just it was the end user that was just never considered. So this is where we feel that we plug the gaps as we put in that persona concepts to really drive that adoption. And it's the era of Alira. I love marketing, the geniuses. So the era of Alira has arrived. So it is basically an interface that puts all your digital assets, software, access, permissions, no matter how complex your environment, but we consume it into an easy, digestible, manageable state. If my app needs training, I will take that feedback and I'll redesign the app. Like it needs to be so easy and intuitive that the user feels empowered and is willing to adopt. And it's fully branded as well. So we want to make sure that it looks like a digital extension of your business. So it doesn't look like Microsoft, doesn't look like Cocho. It looks like your business, and there's like a psychology around that, around the adoption. Like people trust it more. They feel like it's they're more comfortable with using it. It feels like it's something that it's made and built in house even, right? And then they're willing to, with that trust, they're gonna A, use it, but B, also ask things to be added, shadow IT out of the shadows, all that kind of thing. So with that being said, and because it is a wraparound, before I get into it, the demo, which is why we're all here, we do not add tech debt. And I believe that like true ROI comes with maturity and adoption. Like there's too many, especially in this industry, it's always the next hot thing. It's around security and IT. But the cost of that migrations and changing your tech all the time, year on year, every year, you're changing to the new best thing. You're only scratching the surface and the potential of those systems. And the tech shock, the business impact of this constant change, like there's reasons for migrating, especially if you're not getting a lot of value of a product, you need to change something else, sure. But if you really want to get deep and get real value and really embed it into your business with identity tools, keep them. And that's not what Alira is about. It's like keep what you got, but also support migrations if it's required. But the source of truth will always be your identity platform. Like that way you're not doubling up admin work, you're not doubling up complexity. It is just let the user use Alira, easy consumable, but your source of truth, your source of config, your security policies will always be your identity platforms. So that's why we say faster onboarding. Literally, we had a live customer live in 15 minutes because it just scans your infrastructure, puts in the correct components, and puts that end user friendly experience on it. So, and we've seen this work. So the concepts we had working for 18 months with another business, and amazingly, we saw 40% reduction in first line tickets. Like I didn't expect it to be that well, but this is when we knew this was something special. So, and it was empowering it, and this was of a heavy development business as well, like over 300 developers, multi-cloud environment, and it was to reduce that bottleneck was fantastic, but it was also to you've built all this time and energy building out your identity and privilege strategy. And privilege management, that's a whole other beast in its own right, especially if you've got complex cloud environments. But it's to make it easy to use. Like you don't have to navigate that complexity. It's on your hands, like really accessible. And that adoption really drove up. And then we had people that we hadn't never spoken to IT before saying, hey man, love the app, love Alira. We want to can we add this system onto it? Because they didn't want IT to manage the tool, but they got bored of managing it themselves. But this is like an enabler to help, like, again, shadow IT other shadows. It's such a good soundbite. So there, and full adoption. So we had and the onboarding experience was greatly improved. They had the tools. They felt empowered. People were hitting the ground running quicker. And the beauty of Alira was it was increasing the adoption of the self-service capabilities, which means you're getting more your bang for your buck with your Entra investment. So this wasn't just about Alira as a product itself. It was to get ROI on your identity platforms. And I mean, I really should add it to the slide deck, but the most rewarding thing for me personally was the engagement factor. It was the fact that users saw the potential. It wasn't just hear what you've got. It was a conversation to start bringing IT more into the into finding out the other techs, the other systems that we use. And people were like, man, I love it. Can we add it? Can we add this? And they had different roles and systems that we did know about, saying, can we add this role to here so we can self-service, improve it? And I think that was the most rewarding thing. It was just that the relationship with IT was positive, it wasn't seen as this frustrating bottleneck that typically wants to be avoided. It was now a positive engagement with the technical team. So that was really rewarding. Yeah, so Alira in action. So we'll show you the demo. So I have a dashboard here, so you can have multiple workspaces. I'll tell you what, I'll play fair. I'll log out and log back in. So you can see that I've got a few demos here. So at the moment it is many to one. So you could have, if you've got multiple branded businesses that all point to the same intratenant, you can contextually break them down. So we've got the demo and yeah, fully branded. So every component here is customized. A bit of a joke. I did an Ozzy Osbourne kind of homage one just to show you the level of customization you can have. And the idea is simple. So branded, everything you've got. So this is effectively the My Apps portal, but a bit more branded, a bit more easier to digest and consume. And the beauty about this is this could be Google one day, Entra the next. The user never knows. They don't care, right? They just want access to their tools. So the technologies are behind them. This is acting like a consistent overlay to make sure that the user and the impact of change and changing technical components in the back end, you've almost got like an easier transition because you've got a consistent user experience. And this is actually the 4 portals all rolled into one. So I'm sure people on this call are familiar with the Entra stack. This is the privilege management portal that Microsoft have. Again, powerful. We can manage your roles, your groups, your resources. But how is a low-tech user supposed to navigate this portal? It's powerful, but it's not user-friendly. And for technical and IT staff, absolutely navigatable. But it's a lot to do, and especially if you've got hundreds and even thousands. Like this is a big monolithic list. You need to know exactly what you're searching for. And same thing with the access portal. You can have technical naming conventions. The resources are technical, and it's very static. This page, you've got your 4 columns. You can't deviate. And and again, PIM groups and My Access are an important thing to add to your strategy. It's promoting that self-service. But I'll be honest, this isn't low-tech friendly. And you're hopping around. You've got an approval engine here. You have an approval engine here. Make it easy. Make it consistent. And that is what this is. So we've broken down into 2 components, access and software. And this is where the brilliant part is. This prevents shadow IT because a lot of people do shadow IT because they just don't know what a business has. So with this, you've got an app catalog of all the potential systems you can have. And you can break them into context. Here's the Atlassian suite. Here's even the culture. So this could be your email distribution groups, your SharePoint sites, your team sites. Like there's nothing more painful than managing those like Teams, SharePoint, and email distribution. So make it self-service, see what's available. And then I'm looking for a presentation tool. This is what the business supports. So come here first, see if there's a tool for the job without you needing to go through procurement or trying your luck with shadow IT. And with access, it could be multi-cloud. It could be like anything, Salesforce roles, whatever you think, right? So, and that's the beauty of it, is like your access is navigatable and easily to manage. And you'll notice that every technical reference has been stripped out. The concept of a group, the concept of APIs, the concepts of different types of provisioning. Users simply don't know or care. They don't. They just want to do their jobs and they want to do it as quickly as possible without having to have any delays. And all this is configured in Entra. We just make it way easier to adopt and to use. So you can picture the dream. These are all your birthright products. I've started my new business. Everything I've got in one place, but I do need Photoshop. Very quickly, come in here. It's empowered. And if the chief, like a marketing manager, is responsible for Photoshop, old world is you log a ticket, then the IT have to chase the marketing manager for approval, then they do the work. If the IT are not the approvers, it shouldn't be an IT ticket. So empower that experience, and Bamboo, yes, it goes to HR, they approve it, it does all the work. And what we are building at the moment, hopefully to be done by Q1, is connectors. So if this is integrated and it's got automatic provisioning, request done in minutes. But if it's not, we'll have tags to your ITSM tools. So there may be that is manual, but that will create a ticket. but the user will never know. The request and access process is completely the same. Maybe it's a ticket one day and then you integrate it and then it's automatic the next. The user experience is completely consistent. Because again, they don't need to know the components behind the scenes. They just want to know when they click this button, they get the product. And we've also used this with the company portal too. So you could have PIM groups that are required in Intune. So same thing, you want a software installed. So that's like the PIM portal, my access, company portal, my groups, all rolled into a single interface. And the approvals and the requests, again, don't hop around, all put into a single place. Now, the beauty about this is we did an earlier concept, we're building it again. It's IM connectors. So approvals via email is notoriously unreliable. And if you've got 5 approvers, how do the other 4 know that the other 4 they've assumed the other 4 are going to approve it? So there's no central visibility on the approval process. So we want to speed that up, right? So get rid of the IC bottleneck, but then we don't want to have there's still the challenge of the approval delays. So when it goes to things like Teams and Slack, there's a button that will say approval reject. So you don't even have to go to the platform, an IM. But the beauty about IM channel management is when you click approve, the emoji tick box or the emoji X shows up. So the approvers know if the request has been done, but with IM, you've also got an escalation mechanism. So that way, okay, hey, I've got a demo in 5 minutes. I really need this permission. You've got that conversation to speed up that process. And I think IM management for approvals is a lot more effective than email. And simply what we do is it's a quick connector. We read all your groups, packages, and roles. And if it's not assigned to a collection, it's not visible. So we don't shift the mess. We give it a clean, visible lens. So if you do have, example here, complex naming conventions, definitely with Intra, they're handy to have, especially when it comes to SecOps and security. You want those naming conventions, but how is that helpful for the user? Helpful for IT and security, it's not. So what we can do is give it an alias, a friendly name without impacting the name on Intra. And then if it's not assigned to a collection, like I said, it's not visible. So we make sure that this page is clean and consistent. And the users will only see those 3 buttons. That's all they see. It's just relevant. Get it done, get it quickly, and keep it clean. So that is the access portal in essence. And I mean, you can kind of see all the colors. We can be as customized as you want, really drive the concept of adoption. And it's a simple app registration. So that's what I mean when you're live in 10 minutes is we've automated the skim creation. So you can add your members here, and we've automated the app registration. So very quickly you could be up and running if you're using PIM groups and access packages. And we are building a concept where we want to make sure this page can also connect to your other identity providers to make sure that this is the complete source of truth. So there's the IT bottleneck really should be step 2, not step 1. Empower those users, keep up their efficiency, get that bottom line down. So that's what the access portal is about, is driving that adoption of Intra. And this is really cool. I'm really excited to announce the licensing management. So the licensing manager is we've built a UI, an OU UI on top of Intra. Active Directory have it. They never did it with Intra. Intra is just a big monolithic list of users, and you have to conceptualize them with dynamic groups. So what we've done here is you can create your OU structure, but we did it explicitly for licensing management. So the reason is, I'm sure people on this call, hopefully if you're not familiar, you're lucky, but this is just all you get with Microsoft, right? This is just the total, and it's kind of, I don't know if it's designed to like make it easier to increase rather than clean up, but how is that helpful when you've got a very high user base, like businesses all over the country, all over Europe, the world, who knows? And especially if this is a paid license, I'm just using free examples, but this is big money, like especially if you've got 50, 60,000 users, right? So what we can do here is we can contextually break it down, and the number on the left is what's currently used, but I've got limits. So Intra doesn't support max group members. We do. So we can easily come here and we set the limit, and we can see very quickly for this license, could be E3, E5, whatever, and we know exactly where they're used. And then we can say, look, I've got a bucket, I've got 10 free globally, which means I can come to Manchester and increase the allocation by 10. And that way there's a new bucket there. And then if they need to request more, so within, you come here, sorry, Albert. So we give approvers and requesters. That means the IT department or procurement, whoever you want, can then manage the requesters that within that bucket, they can add and remove users as long as they're a member of Alberg. And then if they, okay, you're about to hire a few more people, you need more licenses. You can easily come as a request going, hey, I'm at my limit, I need to request 5 or 10 more. And there's an approval engine where the approver can see, right, this is what we've got globally. This is what's currently used, 100%, and this will be what the impact afterwards. Now, maybe I only had 10 available, they wanted 50, then email procurement. But the key is like making sure we also give the components necessary to easily clean this up. So this is where I'll show you next. So we can see all the licenses, but we can see the allocations and the distribution. And also, there might be members that are not within this OU context. It happens all the time. There could be contractors, there could be temporary accounts. We factor that in. So my system knows that number, but there's actually that consumed in interest. So we do lock that out. So that way, even if Alira isn't the source of truth and all your OUs are represented, I mean, very rarely are you going to have 100% of your identities into your employee OU. So we do factor that in. And to speed up per member license requests, you come here, it's now a tick box. So as long as so Barcelona, I've allocated these licenses, but very quickly, tick, tick, untick, rather than adding members to groups per license, add, remove, so much faster. But you can see the vision here, right? So if this is an F1 license, that's an F3, we will highlight it. We'll have a dashboard that will say, you have a user that has a duplicate license. There is an easy win here, save that money, clean it up. We'll never make the decision for you because maybe they need to be promoted or demoted. You never know, but at least we'll highlight when you've got that duplicate license to make that so much faster and easier. And then on the sprint that we're working on now, this is the silver bullet. So everybody knows salaries, everybody knows laptop costs. No one I've spoken to, I was at a conference for the last 2 days, spoke to about 50 people. No one could tell me what the licensing overhead was per their OUs, not one person. So using this technology and this system, we could very easily break it down. And this is the key to governance. You teach people about risk, you teach people about security. It never really lands, but when you show people this is the cost of running your team, I guarantee that lever process is going to be more tighter than you've ever imagined. So it's show the money. I feel that is the way to truly get that engagement and the adoption of your security and risk framework, is like see what the impact is, especially if you've got a project manager managing 5 contractors. You go to them 6 months later, are they still needed? Yeah, only 4 alive. Come on, man. But if you show them this is what the cost is of running that 10, please, where are those 4? Let's clean them up. And we'll give you the meaningful dashboards, but also the activity. So that way it's easy to clean up those licenses. We want to make sure increasing licensing count is a last resort, but by giving you the tools and the mechanisms to easily clean up those licenses and give you the meaningful value. So again, it is just on a scale of draw, but we are this is something that we are currently building. So and we have a live customer using this, but the focus is getting the MVP ready, the functional layers, so making sure that you can add and remove and manage your buckets. And we have this really cool feature of a birthright. So what that will do is it will get the total members consumed and add that license automatically. Now, so what's cool about that is, so A, we've contextually broken down your licensing distribution. B, we've put on max member limits, so you can't over provision. But now we could say Berlin, birthright, Power Apps for developer. But for Frankfurt, we'll keep that manual. Ultimately, all it does is comes to this section. So in essence, we've hybridized dynamic and assigned groups, because you cannot add manual members to a dynamic query, but with this concept you can. So that way you can have these three cities automatically getting the license, the rest are manual, but it ultimately goes to a single source of truth for a group. So these are features that don't exist in Intra, that again, we're just giving you guys that the empowerment to really drive those costs and making sure that you're getting the most out of Intra, but you're also protecting yourself from the licensing bleed out, like because it is depending on the size of your business, this is it can be very expensive, and it's not just the Microsoft. We are going to be building an ad button, so as long as there's a group driving licenses on any third-party system, so we could add Salesforce, your Salesforce licenses, we can allocate them out to your OUs, and then it'll be feeding into this dashboard. So this will be well, we've done it, right? I spoke to 50 people, of all businesses, all industries, and not one person could say they've got this metric, and this is what we're building for. So this is where the licensing management is to make sure your operational licensing costs are as efficient as possible, but giving you the tools to clean it up. The access portal is to drive that user adoption, bring low-tech users into the conversation, and remove that tech friction and ambiguity. Keep it simple, keep it functional. And extended identities, I'm a bit hesitant to show about this one. This is very exciting. It is an early development, but that is a pseudo HR system for your non-HR accounts. So effectively, that's your service accounts, your shared accounts, your contractors, your admin accounts, anything not in HR. Half the challenge when you audit non-HR accounts, the decision to keep or remove is quite straightforward, but getting the context and why they're created and where they're used, that's the time-consuming thing. So we're going to be building these mechanisms to easily manage and track your non-HR accounts. So that way you've got your HR system and Alira that will have 100% of your identities managed in it. And like a cool example with the admin accounts, we have the tether. So if I've got like my Stefan Baldy at Coacho account, but I've got Stefan.admin. This way, if I leave Coacho and I get terminated and I'm a leaver, it will then take out all the tethered admin accounts. So you don't have these privileged accounts being stagnant for way past their use time, and the service accounts are very heavy on like context. So much like I'm sure we all agree with service accounts. Everyone's terrified to delete them because they have no idea they were set up 5 years ago. They could be the key to the business. But making sure there's metrics to really drive how they're used. Are they still active? Who created them? What departments? That way you've got easier manage of those service accounts. And again, contractors making sure they're life cycled. And when you can paint the picture, especially with contractors, you've got the management layer here for the user side, but then when you show them the cost, you're painting that picture. So all your guests, which are typically have they're high risk accounts from an attack vector perspective, but they also have the most cost bleed out. So we're building these tools. So I guess when I was introducing this product, our feature seats, and then I can show you the roadmap in a minute, but these are real challenges in the business. And I mean, 2 of these features were actually customer requests. Like we're building it for them, and we've seen the opportunity. So we're not like when you do a feature request to Microsoft, it might be months or years if that ever happens. But here, Coacho have the team, they have the will, we have the power to like really listen to what your challenges are and work together, because we want to make a product that adds value, and not just. I mean, you can think about it here. Like, if it saves you 1 ticket, I've got ROI on my platform. If I save you 2 tickets, you're now getting ROI in your identity platform. So this is driven to really improve engagement, improve adoption, but also save costs and reduce risk. That's what we're targeting, and that's where our feature sets are based on. So, and yeah, that's Alira. I mean, I just love the fact that we've brought an OU interface back into Intra. It's a beautiful bit of technology, I'll be honest with you. And it's yeah. So, and then let me just bring up my slide deck again. So the roadmap. So I did briefly highlight over the extended identities and the licensing manager. That's what's currently, the licensing manager's gone live. Extended identities is on early development. I just wanted to highlight it so you know our direction and what we're tackling. We are building the ITSM-IM connectors, what I mentioned, and we are building a better lifecycle management, which is kind of a part of the extended identities. The Echo is really cool. So that's it will track data changes over time. So you can then go back in time 6 months and find out what permissions a user had at that time. But because we're tracking these privilege changes and these role changes, we can give you pre-configured reports. So if you've got the FCA, PCI, GDPR, whatever, right? So it's such an arduous task to get the evidence that you need to give to the auditors. The data's there. We know what they're going to ask for. We're going to give you pre-configured reports and then give you better mechanisms to see what users had. So maybe because a lot of attackers, they sit and wait, right? They don't attack immediately. So being able to go back in time and see what that user had, because potentially if an IT account was compromised, it might be 6 months before the attack commences. Less this way, you can go back and see what the IT member had 6 months ago because their roles are probably completely different. So a lot of interest with that one, but I feel like licensing manager and extended identities is the good nuts to crack first, along with the access portal. The introverse, that's my Everest, I'll be honest. So the introverse is the concept is all your digital. So everyone think, okay, so you want to bottleneck, use it, not bottleneck. You want to have a source of truth for all your users, devices, and applications. It's everybody knows that. You want to make sure all your applications are in place, users and devices, and with your mobile device manager. Oh, you can see with Alira, they will have the users and the applications covered. No one talks about attributes, right? Like consolidating a source of truth for your attributes, because security tools, email tools, L&D, especially when you've got to do anti-money laundering, those kind of courses. You've got your document management tools, your IAM tools. All these have different pieces of the puzzle that maps the digital footprint of a user. We want to bring them all together. And when you've got that true representation, because Intra only knows typically what you feed it through scripts or through an HR connector, but that doesn't paint the full picture of that user from a digital layer. So once we've got these mechanisms to make this digital footprint, then your reporting, your automation, more valuable and enhanced dynamic groups, we're giving you that component because you've got a better picture of what your business represents. And then when you show you the dream, I've got all your, so when we have the introverse, we also know all the privileges and all the applications. So we can build a direct targeted LLM just for your business, right? So no one, like everyone's worried, like, rightly so. When it comes to AI, it's about data sharing, making sure that you only have an AI tool that only reads and learns from your data explicitly. The answer at the moment is you pretty much got to build it yourself. Whereas with this, we will learn, we can train if you want. Obviously, it's you can choose to have it or not. We build on the AI bot, and it will only ever exclusively learn from your data. That way you can have a bot saying, hey, I've got a project due in a couple of days. I need a tool. It will then read your app catalog, suggest it. Do you want me to raise the request for you? Yes. It will then trigger the automation or the IT ticket. Hey, I need to, there's a new product that we're building. I need access to this environment. Sure. This is who owns it. Do you want me to raise a ticket? Do you want me to do the request? Fine. So that's part of the vision. When it comes to so AI will come, but let's first things first, right? Let's just get the user and the administrative layer covered, and then we can then start building enhanced automation processes to, again, all about that experience. Like I love the identity industry, but it's the end user I think has been forgotten about, and it's important to really make sure they're important, right? They're all, a business is not just made of security people and IT people, so we do need a platform that has that persona in mind to make it easy to adopt. And I think 40 minutes, that was a lot of talking. So with that being said, I'd like to open up to Q&A. Let me, so actually, bear with. So we have, what about hybrid environments? Does this allow PIM, JIT, on-prem, groups? So it's a very good question, one I get quite a bit, I'll be honest. So now, Intra has supported SOA for groups. So that's the state of authority. So that would mean you can create Intra groups that sync to on-prem. So, and then they're releasing user SOA, hopefully in H1 next year. So with that being said, you create it on Intra and it will then sync to AD. And the Microsoft are designing that to make sure that the migration to cloud is easier. That way, if you do have on-prem dependencies, the users and the systems on there are explicit. So if you've got 80% of your business that don't need to have on-prem because they're not accessing on-prem tools, Intra first. So with that in mind, I don't want to do duplicate tech. So our system will leverage the Intra's SOA to support that hybrid. There's no point me developing and designing something that Microsoft are making anyway. So, and that's the beautiful part, by the way, with Alira. In the relationship with Microsoft, because the Cocho is a major Microsoft partner, and what we do is with that relationship, this is an enhancement, right? So we want to complement Intra, make it better, really improve that adoption. But as a result, also we know what Microsoft have on the roadmap, what they're going to do. So we want to make sure that we are building tech that will plug gaps. I mean, Microsoft will always be developing, of course, but we feel like these are key challenges now that we're plugging in.